Hello everyone, welcome back to Twashta. Today's question is from CSIR Net December 2019 paper from section C. And the question says, given below is the P concentration versus time plot of an enzymatic reaction carried out by the enzyme X. So there's a graph and they have asked which one of the following statements is the correct interpretation of the given data. First option is the Km and Vmax of the enzyme X are 15 and 60 units respectively. Option B is the Vmax is 60 but the Km cannot be determined. Third option is the Km is 15 but the Vmax cannot be determined. And option 4 is neither the Km nor the Vmax of the enzyme can be determined from these data. To attempt this question, we need to first revise some of the points of enzyme kinetics. So let us understand this graph first. Let's say there is this reaction, enzyme E plus substrate S gives a product P. Now at low substrate concentrations, the V naught, that is the initial velocity or the rate of reaction, increases almost linearly with increase in substrate concentration, while at higher substrate concentrations, V naught increases by comparatively smaller amounts. And finally, the increase becomes so small that a flat plateau-like region is achieved where V naught is infinitely approaching Vmax, that is the maximum rate of the reaction. Notice that the line for Vmax is slightly above the actual plot. And Km is the substrate concentration when the reaction velocity is half the Vmax. So the unit of Km is same as that of concentration, which is millimolar in this case. But the question comes, why? Why the rate of reaction increases almost linearly with increase in substrate concentration? Why a plateau-like region is achieved? The why part is not important for attempting this question as such, but what I believe is that this why part is important for understanding the concept, and once you understand the concept you retain it and then you don't have to cram it. Leonore Michaelis and Maud Menton postulated that the enzyme first combines with its substrate to form an enzyme substrate complex in a relatively fast and reversible step. The enzyme substrate complex then breaks down in a slower reversible second step to yield the free enzyme and the reaction product. Since this is a slower reaction, it will become the rate limiting step in the overall reaction. So the overall rate must be proportional to the concentration of the reactants of the second step, and that is the enzyme substrate complex or the ES complex. At any given time, the enzyme can exist in two forms, the free form and the combined form. At low substrate concentration, most of the enzyme will be in free form. So the equilibrium of step 1 will be pushed in the forward direction towards the formation of more enzyme substrate complex. And that is why the rate of the reaction increases almost linearly with increase in substrate concentration at low substrate concentrations. Now, when do you think the reaction will achieve its maximum rate? Definitely when all the enzyme is present as enzyme substrate complex, right? In this condition, the enzyme is saturated with substrate, and further increase in substrate concentration will not have any effect on the rate. This will happen when substrate concentration is so high that all the free enzyme has been converted to the enzyme substrate, the combined form. This saturation of the enzyme is responsible for the plateau region observed here. But do you think at any given point all the enzyme can be present as enzyme substrate complex? This is not possible because both these reactions are reversible and it's a dynamic process. Enzyme catalysis is a dynamic process. So even if maximum amount of enzyme is present as enzyme substrate complex, very small amount of free enzyme will still be present. And that is the reason why this graph infinitely approaches Vmax but will not reach Vmax in this graph. Getting back to the question, this graph is actually product concentration versus time plot of an enzymatic reaction. So Km can definitely not be determined because it is the substrate concentration at which the velocity is half of the reaction, and there is no substrate in the graph and there is no velocity in the graph. Next is Vmax. Vmax also cannot be determined because if you understood correctly, the reaction will reach its maximum rate when all the enzyme is present as enzyme substrate complex, and that enzyme substrate complex will get converted into product and free enzyme. And in the option 1 and 2 it is mentioned that Vmax of the enzyme is 60 units, which is the maximum product concentration. So concentration cannot be same as the velocity. Consequently, we arrive at our correct option, and that is the fourth option. Neither the Km nor the Vmax of the enzyme X can be determined from these data. Thank you.